Marley was dead to begin with. There was no doubt whatsoever about that. Now, as you all know, that's the start, the opening line of A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. So, guilty of a bit of plagiarism, I shall swap the name Marley for Smith, because Arthur Smith was dead, and there was no doubt about that. Now, Arthur Smith was my dad, and the story I'm about to relate to you concerns a fishing trip in between Dad dying and the funeral. And as you all, well, as many of you probably know, there's always that bit of limbo in between the death and the funeral, where it's a funny time. Anyway, back in the day, back in the mid 90s, Dad died, and my big brother, one of my older brothers, and I decided to go fishing. And we decided to go fishing on a lake where I grew up, Hornsey Mere. It's called a mere. It's a lake in effect, but we decided that we needed to do something just to, take our minds off things and do something a bit fun, really, So we decided on a date, and we met up at the boathouse and we hired a boat. And the order of the day was perch fishing, because Hornsey Mere has got, well, I'm presuming it's still got massive perch and a lot of them. But it's a funny lake because they're not always there. There can be many months where you just can't hit them. And then suddenly, as you get to September, October, they bunch up in areas, and if you get on them, you get a real good day's fishing. So Ashley and I decided let's do that. So we met down at the boathouse, as I said, and we rented the fishing punts. They had a special punch for fishing, which were made out of fiberglass, not like the traditional wooden boats that they did have at that time. And off we went. We had brandlings, we had lobworms, and we had maggots, bronze and red maggots, and we were all set. Well, what was that? We were all set, and off we went. So we were rowing out. Our strategy was let's drift down the big wides, the big open area of the lake where it's the deepest as well. And as we sailed out there, rowed out there, I was on the oars, we got probably as far as you could get from land on Hornsey Mere. And Ashley said, "Have you noticed all the water that's coming in here?" He said, "We've got loads of water." I said, "Oh, it's from the rain. It's just there. Come on, let's just crack on." A bit later, 10 minutes later, of course, he said, "Bloody hell, you Patrick, look how much water's coming in now." And as I looked down, I could see the water was above the boards. And I'm thinking, bloody hell, we're taking on water. And we were. So in an emergency situation, what we did was we got all the bait and put it into one bait bucket, and then the other bucket, Ashley, started bailing out. And I said, "Well, what are we going to do?" So we came to an idea that we would row as fast as we could to the Seaton roadside, which has a main road going by it. There we could get a lift, get back into town, go around to the boathouse and get assistance there. Because if we sailed the other side, then there's nothing there, it's just fields. So we went for that. And as we were rowing, as I was rowing, because Ashley was busy bailing, he said, "Bloody hell, you Patrick, look at the water coming in now." And it was filling up. And he was going as fast as he could with his little bailing bucket, and I'm rowing it, and I could feel it getting heavy. I'm thinking, crikey, what the... Now, before you speculate, there's no bungs in these boats. It's not that we forgot to put a bung in. They're a solid hull. So we knew it wasn't anything to do with that. And off we went as fast as we could, with the water coming in and Ashley bailing out. By the time we got up to the beach, it was well above your ankles. It was up to your shins, middle of your shins. And the idea was that then I got out the boat, and I said, I was already wet anyway on my feet, so waded into land and I got onto Seaton Road. And the idea was I'd get there and then I'd get a lift round. Hopefully someone would come by that knew us, and I'd get a lift round back into town and down to the Mere side, where I could get some help from the boatmaster, the guy that run the Mere at that time. So I hopped off, and Ashley stayed put and sorted things out, carried on bailing, and I went to the Seaton roadside. And as I got there, I saw a van that I recognised, and it was a mate of mine and a work mate of mine. And he came driving towards me. I thought, oh, thank God for that. So I waved, and he waved back and carried on driving. And I thought, well, what's that all about? The day after, or should I say some days later, I said, bloody hell, couldn't you have stopped and given me a lift? He said, well, I just thought you was out on one of your walks. And to be fair, that's at that time I was going on lots of long walks, and I do like a bit of rambling, as they used to call it in the old days. So he just presumed I was just there out of choice. He didn't realise I needed assistance, needed help. So off he went. And I thought, well, that's good. Anyway, so I walked the 2 miles or whatever it was back into town and round to the mere. And I said, look, I said, we've got a boat that's just taken on water. We've had to beach up on the Seaton roadside. She said, all right then. I said, we'll hook up another boat, and we'll tow it out with a motorboat, because there were motorboats aren't allowed on the mere. There's only one, and that's the person who runs it in case of people need assistance. So anyway, he found another boat and he got it hooked up, and off we went. And we sailed into the beach where Ashley had landed, and it was a total Dunkirk experience, apart from the Messerschmitt. And yeah, so we transferred all the gear into the new boat and everything, which wasn't actually a fishing punt. It was just one of the clinker built rowing boats. And we loaded everything in on the new boat, the rescue boat, and off the motorboat went with the old boat, which had been bailed out by Ashley, and obviously that was going to get them back to the boathouse. So that aside, we'd survived that, and we didn't lose any gear, and we didn't get up to our waist or up to our necks or drowned. We decided that, what are we going to do? Where are we going to fish? And Ashley said, you know what, he said, back in the early 70s, which was over 20 years by this time, he said, we always used to catch fish by the South East Buoy. He said, we always used to catch fish there. So I said, well, I'll tell you what, let's just get there as quick as we can and give it a shot, give it a swing. So off we went. And the thing about the clinker built boats, the wooden boats, they were really easy to row. You can row really fast. The energy to propulsion ratio was really good. So we were over there pretty quick. And no sooner had the anchor gone down than Ashley's float, Ashley got it in first. Ashley's float went, it zipped away, and he got to this really nice perch. It would have been around a pound, which is nice for a perch. And as he got it in, he'd forgotten, or in the excitement forgotten, that they've got some really nasty spines. They have a dorsal fin. And those spines, those first two there, are really, really thick, like a bayonet. Anyway, he decided that it would be good fun to get it into his hand, right in there it went. And there was blood everywhere. I said, for crying out loud, what now? So I got my fishing rag. Your bait rag, when you've been baiting up, you like to wipe your fingers occasionally. So he clapped it on his hand and stopped the bleeding, but it took ages. It was like when you get in the end of your finger, if you get a cut in there, it bleeds for ages. So he was bleeding, and but as he was bleeding, my float, boom, it was away, and we caught fish after fish of these really nice sized perch, everything from 4 ounces, 8 ounces to a pound, a little bit over. There was no big 2-pounders came, but they were all a pound around there. Absolutely gorgeous fish, and it was a marvellous day, because at the start of the day it was a bit cloudy and a bit miserable, but as we started catching these fish, the sun came out, and we absolutely had an absolute storming day. The next thing was, of course, like all good fishing days, you have to stop fishing. And we rode back to the boathouse, and as we went back to the boathouse, our Ashley said, he said, you know what, he said, that was Dad. He was taking the piss out of us. I said, you might be right. I said, we just don't know. So we rode into the boathouse and into the jetties, and started getting our gear off and into the cars and everything like that. And as I was getting the last bit off the boat, I noticed the number, and it was number 29. And number 29, well, the year 29 was the year when my dad was born. And I said, bloody hell, Ash, look at that. I said, that's 19, it's 29, that's when Dad was born. He says, bloody hell, he says, I'm telling you, something weird happened out there today. So, we went off and did our thing. And then, of course, the funeral came, and we sent Dad off in style. It was a good day, which sounds strange talking about a funeral, but it was a good day. We sent him off in style, and after the funeral, there was all the stories came out, and it was as though he was almost there, really. There were so many stories, and everyone was laughing and having a nice time. But that's not quite the end of the story. The point of the story is that it was a month later, 3 weeks, 4 weeks later, I decided I wanted another crack at those perch, and went down to the mere. And the boatman, the man who run the Hornsey Mere at that time, he said to me, "You're the one that had the boat flooded and had to come ashore on Seaton Road." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Tell me again, what happened?" So I just basically related the story I related to you. Out in the deeps, we started taking on water, got to the side, and all the rest of it. He said to me, "I've had that boat up on land, and I've checked it through with a fine tooth comb." He said, "I cannot find a hole, a crack, a split, or anything." He said, "That hull is as sound as it was when we poured it." And he said, "I've also rented it out. I've hired it out a few times to different anglers, and they never had a complaint of it taking on water." At that point, I thought, well, what happened then? Because I was there on the boat. I was there watching Ashley bailing out. A rationalist would, or a materialist would say, well, there must be some logical explanation. I am still to this day, so many years later, perplexed by it. And I suppose that is my, I wouldn't say it's a ghost story, but it's certainly a strange story. And it was a strange day's fishing. At a strange time, obviously, when you've lost someone you love. But I'll leave you to come to your own conclusions, and that's all that's all we can do, isn't it? Like, come to our own conclusions, look at the evidence before us. Anyway, this isn't a courtroom scene, this is just, so that was just a little story I wanted to relate to you and say Merry Christmas, subscribers. I've got a mug of coffee here because it's cold. I hope Christmas lives up to your expectations, and if it doesn't, then make it. And I will see you all in the new year, when things will get back on track again. It's been a bit of a busy year this year, but I'll get into that more in the new year when I start uploading vlogs. So this is Give It a Swing Outdoors with Smith, saying Merry Christmas, all the best for New Year.